Hi everybody, Villain Meta here, and I'm back to talk about a couple more fics on my favorites list on fanfiction.net. So the next fic that was on my list was an extremely long one, and it's been one of my favorites from Naruto for a very long time, called For the Love of My Friends. It's a time travel fic where basically the entire village is destroyed, and before he goes back in time, basically there's 7 people left in the village after an attack by Orochimaru. And I think just that fact tells you how old this is, because most of the fics that were written as it went on, Orochimaru became a minor nuisance at some point, especially for time travel in essence, where he's just something to be stepped over, where everybody else is the big bads. But here, this is still early on enough where he's the main antagonist. And it's a serious take. There's lighthearted moments, but it's mostly meant to be taken seriously. It has an alarming habit of growing. The first few chapters are rather short. It goes and it gets to a decent size, a few thousand words a chapter for the longest time, and then the final 10-ish chapters become behemoths that are 10,000 plus words, and then it just abruptly ends because the author stopped caring about Naruto. That's her own words, not mine. So she just stopped caring about Naruto and decided to just call it quits. And so it ends on a cliffhanger. It's not satisfying, and that's irritating, especially with how much is there and how much investment it gets to get to that point. But at the same time, the rest of the story is great. I love every single bit of it, again, even after reading it for however many times I've read it. But going back, I still felt everything held up. The characters were interesting. It made me like the Sasuke in this thing, and it made Sakura a nice character, and she's not a worthless waste of space that a lot of people treat her as. It's a good story. The ending sucks because of how the authors decided to just stop, but getting to there is still interesting enough, and the fact that you get that much out of just going up from the graduation, his Genin graduation, to the Chunin exams invasion is interesting, and all the stuff that's done is really great. I can't recommend it enough, and you should definitely check this out. And obviously it's still staying on my list. Now the one after that is called Okay. And this is actually one that I saw on CV12 Hornet's list before I decided to start doing this myself. And when I saw his thing, I agreed, yeah, I think I'm an idiot. Maybe I shouldn't have put that on my list, and this is going to be embarrassing. Going back and reading it, not as embarrassing as I thought. It's still dumb. So the story, it's really short, 1,000 words. It's a single scene where Evangelion. Okay, so Misato comes home one time and just sees Shinji and Rei staring at the TV and calls out to them to tease them, and then they just respond with yeah, whatever. Sorry, I can't to the left. So the point is that Shinji and Rei are pretending to be Beavis and Butthead, and they act like that, and it's so out of character that Misato freaks out and passes out. And that's the joke. So I was born in 1990. I was born early, so I missed out on Beavis and Butthead. I didn't even have cable back then, so I didn't fucking know. I missed out on Beavis and Butthead. I just know of their laugh, and and that they did America in some way. I don't fucking know. But so to me, this is just a stupid bit, and I guess it made me laugh in a way that I decided to put it on my list. because the thing is, my favorites list, what I mainly used it for previously, before going through this and just picking, like saying that I'm going to just pick the cream of the crop, and honestly part of this as well, is still like, I do it if I want to go back and read it again. And I guess something in me wanted to read this again because it got put on my list. I don't know why. So it's not as embarrassing as I thought, but it is stupid. The joke's not that good, and it's just annoying to read and doesn't fit very well. It's just a waste. So I'm taking this off my list. It's dumb. Don't bother reading it. It's a waste of time. And the third one that I'm going to go through today, which is the last one, because this one was also really long, is called An Ant's Love, which is a Harry Potter fic, and the ant is Petunia Dursley in this case. So let's go over the main plot. The main plot is after a 5th year and the Department of Mysteries debacle, Petunia starts hearing all the nightmares that Harry keeps having and feels bad for him and decides that he needs help and puts him into a mental hospital / school. So Harry's there and he's like trying to get out initially, but then Voldemort keeps attacking him in his sleep, and he's starting to take therapy and get better. And all of a sudden, Dumbledore is now also like is also like a big bad, and he might be evil. And they're just constantly pushing him, trying to save the world and all that stuff. It's long. It started in 2004. It got updated in September, so apparently it still has the author's attention. It's good. The writing's good. All the characters, aside from that first, bit change where Petunia cares about Harry in a way that she never did in the books, like, the characters still grow and act in realistic and understandable manners. So I stopped reading this. This is one that I never finished, and I did not keep up with this as it was being updated. Usually that happens for 2 reasons. One, I just get bored of the story and I stop, and I just didn't clean it off my list. Or 2, I feel like I feel like the story is heading towards a kind of like pattern that I don't enjoy. Like, it's heading to things that's like overly dark or like sadistic torture or stuff like that, like stuff that I just don't want to see. This was the former. Like, I just got bored of this story and it did not grip me again when I read this. It always felt like a chore to read this for this. Like, if I hadn't said in the beginning when I started doing this that I would read through the entirety of each of these stories, I probably would have stopped in the midway point. I did find out that there was one scene that I remembered, and I'd actually been looking or trying to remember where this scene was from for a couple times, like a while back, which was a scene where like Harry just comes to Dumbledore and like they have a talk and he forgives him, and then he's like, oh, it comes back, it's like, hi, that was my grandson that just left, and McGonagall doesn't know who it was, and I don't even know why. It's not a big scene, it's a tiny like bit, and it feels a little odd in this story, mainly because for like the majority of the story, 65 chapters plus, Dumbledore is just as bad as of a guy or as much of a villain as Voldemort, and then this like one scene happens and then now he's just pushed aside and just occasionally referenced as like a comedic bit that happens time and again in the last like 10 chapters. And it's a little odd, but I feel like that's just what happens if you're writing the same story after 14 years. Your feelings about the characters might change. It's a good story. I'm not going to say it's not. It's a good story. The writing, it has no problems. It's all understandable. Everything flows. Like, the characters are written well. They're all believable. There's made up characters that are like, characters that get added to the story that are all interesting and add to the plot. They're not just there for set dressing. It just did not grab me. And I'm trying to be more discerning with this thing. So just being good is not enough if I don't want to read it. Like, I know I said in a previous one that, like, oh, this one's nothing special, but I liked it, so it's staying on my list. This is the opposite, where it's like, it's a good story, good written, well written, and I'll recommend it to people, but it's not staying on my list because it didn't grab me, and so I can't keep it on my list. So it's getting the boot. So there we have it, 3 more, and this time 2 gone. I don't know the number. I can't know the numbers off the top of my head, but that's good. So this is the last time this is the last video of my semester. Semester's over, so I'll be heading back to my house and off campus for the next few weeks, and so you'll see a slightly different room, and maybe I'll go through more since I don't have to worry about schoolwork anymore. I'll see you next time for another trip down my favorites list. Catch you later.